Hey y'all, and welcome to Monday Night's Treasure Vortex with Gypsy Jules from YouTube's Zero Discrimination, as well as gypsydigs.com, and myself, Amanda Digger Degaz. Tonight's special guest is Debbie Blades, and we are actually going to be bringing her right in. So, Gypsy, do you want to introduce everyone?
Sure. So I had the honor this last weekend at Treasure Fest in Murfreesboro to meet Debbie in person, and she will let her tell more about herself once we bring her in, but we had so much fun. I'm sure we'll be talking about it. But hi, Debbie. You mind introducing yourself?
Hey, Gypsy. Hey, Amanda. My name is Debbie Blades, and I did get to be at Arkansas last week and was just so thrilled to finally meet you. I had such a good time. I am secretary for a little group, metal detecting group here in Lebanon, Missouri, Laclede County Treasure Trackers, and we have our meetings every month on the second Thursday of the month at the library. And then I'm also assistant editor for American Digger magazine, and been metal detecting for pretty much my whole life since I was about 18. So that's
wow.
Yeah, it goes back a ways. It's there were gaps where I didn't get to detect life and all that. So it's not like I was out every day for all that time, but that's when I started.
Right.
Was about. Yeah, back in the late 70s.
What got you interested, or did you have a family member or someone you knew that got you started?
Yeah, well, actually, my parents just got me a metal detector for my birthday one year, just a little cheap $99 unit from,
wow.
a no-name, a little no-name unit, and I just was hooked from the beginning. And, back then they didn't really have a lot of discrimination. So you just dug everything. And
right.
I just detected anywhere I could go, mostly my own yard. And fortunately, lived in some areas where there was a lot of history. So, I found some really neat stuff. Living in Georgia, there's a lot of history there. Some I found some Civil War. I wasn't that much into it back then to go out looking for specifically Civil War, but anything relics. I just love digging relics. And
wow.
Just been a lifelong passion, and I just love doing it.
That is too neat. Do you remember your very first find or the first thing you dug? I guess you dug it in your front yard, or do you remember?
It was. I don't remember my very first find, but one of the first was probably a large cent, which was in my front yard.
Wow.
And that happens to be the only large cent I've ever found.
Really?
And
oh, wow.
Yeah. But my best find, in fact, I wrote an article back in 2018. I wrote an article for American Digger magazine about it. I found a silver Chinese ring in my yard. And even at that time, and this was back, like I said, 79, 80, somewhere along in there. And I thought, well, this is strange. What's this Chinese ring? It's got it's silver. It's got a dragon on it. On the inside, it had Chinese characters. So I didn't, and this is way before the internet. And so I started trying to find out more about this ring. And there was I knew a Chinese man in town. So I took it to him and showed it to him, and he copied down the characters and kind of gave me an idea of what the ring said, but still no clue as to how it got there or anything. So I wrote a letter to the Oriental Institute in Chicago and told them what I had, and they wrote back, "Oh, we don't have any idea. That's pretty neat, but we don't have any idea what it is." And so pretty much that was the extent of my research at that time. And so I just put everything together in an envelope and threw it in my jewelry box, and just kind of forgot about it. And several years ago, I happened to be watching a TV show called America Unearthed, and the host was interviewing a Chinese scholar, and he was talking about how the Chinese came to this country not on the West Coast, as is commonly believed, but actually probably on the East Coast, into specifically Georgia and the Carolinas. And he was showing a medallion that had been found, and I started thinking, wow, I found this ring. I wonder if that could possibly be any thing to do with that. So I actually contacted the host of the show, and he put me in touch with this Chinese scholar. And from there, it just snowballed into all this research. I took the ring and had it tested for the purity of the silver. And based on everything, it turns out that the ring is from the Ming Dynasty.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I was pretty floored.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Based on the purity of the silver, and it's 98% pure, which that puts it in Ming Dynasty. So he wanted me to send it to the Chinese museum in London, or was it? I'm sorry, in China. It's a museum in China anyway. But I said, no, not right now. I can't part with it. Had it too long. Right. But that's definitely my best find. And,
oh my gosh, that is so neat.
Yeah. It's been I called it my 40-year adventure trying to find out about that ring.
Right. So you did a write-up in American Digger
I did.
about this?
Okay. Yeah, I sure did. Yeah. It's a few years, 2018, so it's been a few years.
So we can look at photos of this in the article, I'm assuming. Cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was, it was quite a shock to find that out. And it just made me want to get out and dig more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, don't tell me that was in your front yard as well?
Oh, it was. No, actually, it was in my side yard. But in the same yard. This little house we lived in, a little town called Alpharetta, Georgia, and is just a little north of Atlanta. And I tell you, it was like a little treasure trove. Everything in that yard was just amazing. And I mean, that was obviously the best thing, but the area was just a very old area. So everything you found was probably from I'd say mid 1800s, somewhere along in there. It was a lot of fun. It's long gone now. There's a huge house there, and I doubt they give me permission. But yeah, it was a great way to get started. I've often wondered if it weren't for living at that house and being able to start out my detecting in that yard, if I would have stuck with it, because it could have been frustrating back then with digging a lot of nails and stuff. But yeah, it was a great start to a lifelong hobby.
I'd say
wow.
You had a perfect site. First large scent, then the ring. I'm sure there's been other things in between there as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, yep.
Wow. So our next question would be, so after you used that detector for a while, when did you buy or yourself a new detector, and what type of detector did you get?
Okay. That detector lasted me for a very long time. I guess it was about the late 80s. And this was after I'd gotten married, and I convinced my husband I needed a, new metal detector. And I had my heart set on a Garrett. Garrett was the big, and I had to have well, by this time I had gotten married and we moved to Florida. So we lived near Kellyco, and drove over there. Yeah, I drove over there, and I got me a Garrett, was a GTA 1000. And, lived in Florida, never did, just detected pretty much around the area that I lived, and we rarely went to the beach because we were always working. Didn't unfortunately, I didn't really find a lot. I think it was just kind of the areas that I was looking in.
Right.
There just wasn't a lot. Then kind of say I took a break for a few years and didn't really get a lot of detecting in because we had our own business and we were on the road working all the time. So from there, I think the AT Pro was my next detector, and that's been probably 15 years ago. So yeah, and that's when I really got hot and heavy into metal detecting. Yeah.
Right.
Where it became almost like an obsession. Now I've got so many metal detectors I can't. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We get obsessed. I don't even know how many Amanda has anymore, and you know how that goes with me. So yeah.
We do have a question in chat. Mark wanted to know, what city in Florida did you live?
Well, if he lives in Florida, he may have heard of it. It's a little city called Howey in the Hills, just west of Orlando.
All right.
About 25, 30 miles. Yeah, Howey in the Hills, which at that time there was less than 1,000 people, and I don't know what the population is now, but it's a lot bigger since we left. And it used to be it used to be a real beautiful area.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Fantastic.
And so, what other places did you get to detect once you got really into it with your Pro?
Yeah. Well, of course, I've beat my property to death because we live here in Missouri and Missouri Ozarks, and the house I live in is a little over, probably right at 100 years old. But I tell you, the soil here is so rocky, it's really hard to get too deep. But I found stuff from, I have found wheat pennies from the early 1900s. But other than that, it's been mostly, I'd say, 30s and 40s and, newer. So nothing really old. Because around here, you're not going to find, any colonial or, there are Civil War relics here. In fact, a metal detecting group, they kind of have changed the history in this town as far as the Civil War goes, because it was thought that there really wasn't anything Civil War, and they've proven them wrong by finding just loads and loads of Civil War relics in some of the fields around here, places where there were camps, skirmishes, no real battle. The Wilson's Creek battlefield down in Springfield. Up here, just through, but apparently they did camp out and hang around long enough to leave us a few relics behind to find. And that's a lot of fun. So every once in a while I can convince one of them to take me along, and